If you find yourself facing unexplainable delays, waiting with no end in sight, and answers that seem to slip further and further away, there is something important I need you to understand. Delays are never just delays, they are messages, subtle and profound, from a God who sees beyond the surface. When you're stuck in that season of waiting, unable to explain why things aren't falling into place, don't rush past it. Pause, listen, and seek what God is trying to reveal to you in that silence. In that waiting, there is a hidden wisdom, a guidance we often overlook. Stay with me, because what's waiting in the depths of this moment could be the answer you've been seeking. Sometimes we want life to flow smoothly, to unfold as planned. We imagine a path that runs straight, a timeline that matches our dreams. Yet, in reality, we often find ourselves stuck, waiting on a promise we thought would have already arrived. In those quiet and seemingly endless pauses, it's natural to wonder, why God? Why not now, but in this very delay? In that unseen and unexplainable pause is often the space where God speaks most profoundly. The delays we face are not there to frustrate us, but to strengthen, mold, and prepare us for the very things we're asking Him for. When we see delays, we feel it as an interruption in our journey. But in God's perspective, it is no interruption. It is a vital part of His process for our lives. The delays you face may not seem purposeful to you, but remember, God does nothing without purpose. Every moment, every second has His divine touch. He's not bound by our clocks or by our timelines. So when you're facing unexplainable delays, what if that waiting time is God's way of teaching us something that we cannot learn any other way? Maybe it's patience, a quality we are quick to abandon in our fast-paced lives. Patience isn't passive, though. It's one of the most active forms of faith there is. In patience, we surrender control, we let go of our timelines and embrace His timing. We trust that while we don't see the entire path, He does. Throughout the Bible, we see examples of God's people waiting. Look at Abraham, who was promised a son but waited 25 long years to see that promise fulfilled. Or consider Joseph, who spent years in prison before stepping into his calling. God doesn't promise immediate answers, but He promises a perfect plan. In the midst of delay, He is often refining us, preparing us for a greater task. When God makes us wait, He is cultivating in us the qualities needed to steward His promises well. Think of how He taught Joseph to forgive, to trust, to remain steadfast in faith even in prison. God used that delay to develop the very heart that would one day be capable of leading a nation. In our waiting seasons, God is shaping us, preparing our character. He's preparing us not just to receive His promises, but to carry them with honor, with humility, with a steadfast heart. Sometimes we want the blessings so quickly that we don't realize we aren't yet prepared to handle them. God, in His infinite wisdom, knows the depth of our readiness, and He waits until we are ready to bear the weight of His blessing. There's a danger in receiving too soon before we're equipped to hold the fullness of His plans. That's why He uses delay not as punishment, but as preparation. He is molding us to become vessels that can carry what He's destined for us without it breaking us. Have you ever wondered why you feel so stretched in the waiting period? God stretches us in the delays because what He's preparing for us is greater than we can imagine. He is teaching us resilience, deepening our faith, and cultivating wisdom in our spirits. These aren't things we gain through speed, but through endurance. The strength that God is building in you during this time isn't just for now, it's for what lies ahead, for the future He has designed with you in mind. He's taking the time to make sure you're unshakable, ready to stand firm in the purpose He's planned for you. In the waiting, we're often tempted to step out and try to make things happen ourselves. But when we take matters into our own hands, we miss the blessings that come from letting God lead. Remember, God's delays aren't denials. In fact, His timing is a reflection of His perfect love and protection. If He's holding back, it's for a reason that is far beyond what we see in the moment. In every delay, there's a protection over us, keeping us from walking into something too soon or from a path that might cause harm. In our limited vision, we may not see it, but God sees all things past, present, and future. He knows what's best for us and for His purposes. So rather than rushing the process, let's lean into God's timing. If we can trust Him with our future, can we also trust Him with our present, even when it doesn't make sense? When delays frustrate us, we must remember that every second is being used purposefully. It's easy to think we're just in a holding pattern, but God is doing a work in us that is essential for our future. His timing is not a reaction, it is part of the design. God doesn't respond to circumstances, He orchestrates them. When God places a delay before us, it's as if He's giving us an invitation to draw near and learn from Him in ways we might have otherwise overlooked. In those unexplainable waiting times, He's calling us to come closer, to sit at His feet and let His words and ways sink deep into our souls. Every second of waiting, every moment of longing is God's invitation to deeper intimacy. He's saying, come closer. Trust me more. Rest in my promises. The lesson of delay is more than a call to patience. It's a call to lean on Him in every aspect of our lives. In our humanity, we're inclined to look for solutions, to fix the delay, to bridge the gap. But God doesn't need us to make things happen. He needs us to let Him work as He intends. There's a power in releasing control that we cannot access while we're trying to force the process. When we release control, we're letting go of our own limited vision and trusting in the boundless vision of God. This surrender is where the mystery of His work becomes evident. Our letting go opens the door for God's perfect timing to take hold. The waiting itself becomes a fertile ground where our faith is refined, where we learn to let go of the how and the when and simply trust in the one who holds all things together. As we wait, God is nurturing qualities in us that aren't quick to grow. Patience, trust, and endurance, these are the marks of maturity that we can only acquire over time. Just as a plant doesn't grow in an instant, neither do these qualities take root in us overnight. God knows what it takes to develop character, and He is far more interested in developing our character than in delivering things quickly. When we realize that He is using these delays to make us more like Him, it becomes easier to bear the waiting with joy and with hope. We can rest in the assurance that what He is building within us is valuable beyond words, crafted carefully with the hands of a loving Father who knows our true potential. Imagine a child who wants to run before they've learned to walk. A loving parent doesn't allow that because they understand that it could lead to harm. Instead, they hold the child's hand, guide their steps, and build their strength over time. This is what God does with us during delays. He is not withholding blessings to punish us. He is preparing us to carry the weight of those blessings responsibly and fully. When we wait with God, we're not wasting time, we're gathering strength, we're gaining wisdom, and we're aligning our hearts with His purpose. The process of waiting with God also shifts our perspective from seeing things as obstacles to seeing them as opportunities. When we embrace the waiting, we begin to notice the lessons He's teaching us along the way. Our spiritual vision becomes sharper, and our understanding deepens. We see that the delay is a teacher, that God Himself is guiding us through each season, and that His ways, though mysterious, are intentional. He's giving us eyes to see beyond the temporary, to trust Him even when our circumstances don't align with our desires. This new vision is what enables us to move forward with a peace that surpasses understanding, knowing that His timing is perfect. Consider how Jesus' disciples were often in situations that required waiting and patience. When Lazarus was sick, Jesus delayed His visit. It wasn't because He didn't care, it was because He had a greater purpose. In that delay, Jesus was setting the stage for a miracle that would reveal His power and deepen the disciples' faith. The same is true for us. In our delays, God is setting the stage for something greater, something that reveals His glory in ways we couldn't have imagined. When we see our delays through this lens, we realize they aren't setbacks but setups for something miraculous. We often think that the waiting is all about what we are lacking. But sometimes God is delaying because there is something happening behind the scenes, something in the spiritual realm that requires this pause. He might be aligning circumstances, opening doors, or removing obstacles that we don't even know about. The delay could be God's way of ensuring that every piece is perfectly in place for His divine plan. Just as a master artist steps back to see the whole picture before adding the final strokes, God sees our lives from beginning to end, and He arranges every detail with His sovereign hand. One of the hidden messages in our delays is learning to value God's presence above all else. Sometimes He delays our progress because He wants us to seek Him more deeply. In our desire to move forward, we can become so focused on the destination that we forget to appreciate the one who guides us there. God, in His love, allows us to experience delay so we can learn to cherish His presence in the journey. We start to realize that He is the prize, not just the blessings He gives. This revelation transforms our hearts. It shifts our desires from things to Him. We start praying not just for answers, but for closeness with Him. This is the hidden treasure of waiting a deeper, unshakable relationship with God. In these seasons of delay, God is teaching us the art of reliance, a reliance that doesn't waver even when we can't see the path ahead. He's saying, trust me. Even if you don't see the end, trust that I do. This is the kind of faith that carries us through life's storms, that keeps us steady when everything around us is shifting. God knows that we will face challenges ahead, and in His wisdom, He allows delays to strengthen the very faith we'll need to stand firm in those times. Just as a tree's roots grow deep in times of drought, our faith is fortified in times of delay, making us resilient, grounded, and immovable in Him. As we grow in this reliance, we start to understand that delays often precede breakthroughs. Throughout Scripture, before every major move of God, there was a period of waiting. The Israelites waited in the wilderness before entering the promised land. The disciples waited in the upper room before the outpouring of the Holy Spirit at Pentecost. God uses waiting as a means of preparation, a sacred pause before He unleashes His power. What we see as a delay is often the calm before the divine move, a moment to prepare ourselves for the weight of His glory that is about to be revealed. In waiting, we also gain insight into the priorities of God's heart. We learn that His ultimate goal is not simply to grant our requests, but to mold us into the image of Christ. Through every delay, He is refining our character, polishing our hearts, and drawing us closer to Him. He knows that the most important transformation is not the change in our circumstances, but the change within us. God cares about our character more than our comfort, and He allows delays as a refining fire to purify and strengthen our spirit. Each moment of waiting is a step closer to becoming the people He created us to be, vessels of His love and purpose. This transformation that occurs during delays becomes the testimony we carry forward. People will see the patience, resilience, and faith that have been cultivated in us, and they'll know that it didn't come easily. Our stories of waiting will become testimonies of God's faithfulness, reflections of His hand guiding us through every moment. These testimonies aren't just for us, they're for others who will walk similar paths. God uses our seasons of delay to encourage others, to show them that He is trustworthy, that He is working even when we don't see it. In sharing our experiences, we become a beacon of hope, a living testament to the truth that God's timing is always perfect. And so as we face delays, we are called not to resist them, but to embrace them as sacred seasons of growth. Instead of pushing against them, let us press into them, asking God, what do you want me to learn? How are you shaping me through this? When we approach delays with this perspective, we find a peace that anchors us. We start to see that the waiting season is just as important as the fulfillment of the promise. It is not a detour, it is an essential part of the journey. As we continue to navigate these seasons of delay, the inner work God is doing becomes more evident. Each day we spend waiting is a day we grow in wisdom, discernment, and dependence on Him. God uses these delays to deepen our understanding of His character, to reveal Himself in ways we might never have known if everything in life moved swiftly and smoothly. The truth is, our waiting seasons are holy ground where God meets us in our humanity, our frustrations, and our fears, and transforms them into something beautiful. It is in these moments that we come to know the heart of God on a deeper level, realizing that His love for us is not based on our performance or our accomplishments, but on His unchanging, steadfast nature. Waiting becomes an opportunity to let go of our earthly anxieties and ambitions, allowing God's peace to take root in our hearts. His peace is not passive but powerful. A peace that surpasses all understanding and stands firm even in the most challenging circumstances. In delay, God invites us to step into this peace, teaching us to rest in His sovereignty and trust that He knows what's best for us. It's in the quiet of waiting that we discover His peace in a way that goes beyond what the world can offer. We learn to let go of the need to understand every step, and instead, we hold on to the one who has ordered every step. This peace transforms our hearts, making us resilient in faith and undeterred by outward circumstances. As we yield to God in the delay, something miraculous happens. We begin to reflect His patience. The impatience, frustration, and restlessness that once marked our response to waiting slowly dissolve, replaced by a quiet confidence in His timing. This patience isn't something we achieve on our own. It's a gift from God, cultivated in our hearts as we lean into His presence. Over time, we find ourselves responding to life's challenges not with haste, but with a steady, unshakable assurance that God is in control. This patience is a powerful testimony to others. In a world that constantly demands instant results and immediate satisfaction, our patience becomes a beacon of God's grace, a quiet strength that speaks volumes without saying a word. One of the greatest revelations we receive in waiting is the understanding of true contentment. Contentment doesn't come from having everything we desire, but from knowing that in Christ we lack nothing. God's timing reorients our desires, showing us that what we truly need is not more possessions or achievements, but a deeper relationship with Him. We start to see that His presence is the fulfillment we've been searching for all along. As we learn to be content in Him, our hearts find a joy and satisfaction that isn't dependent on external blessings. This contentment isn't fleeting, it's rooted in the eternal truth that God is with us, that He is enough, and that His plans for us are far better than anything we could have imagined. In this journey of waiting, we also come to realize that God's timing is about more than just us. The delays we experience often have a purpose that reaches beyond our own lives. God may be using our waiting season to work in the lives of those around us, to prepare hearts, align relationships, and bring healing in ways we can't see. His timing encompasses a grander narrative, one that includes the lives of people we may not even know. As we wait, God is orchestrating events that will bring about His purposes in ways that extend beyond our individual stories. Our waiting becomes an offering, a way of saying, Lord, I trust that your timing is not only perfect for me, but for everyone connected to my life. In this surrender, we find a peace that embraces the bigger picture, trusting that God's work is comprehensive and far-reaching. As our understanding of God's timing grows, we begin to let go of our fixation on outcomes. Instead of focusing on what we're waiting for, we shift our gaze to who we're becoming through the process. We see that God's ultimate desire is not merely to give us what we want, but to shape us into the image of His Son. This shaping often happens in the fire of waiting, where our rough edges are smoothed and our faith is refined. Through each delay, God molds us, purifies us, and prepares us for the destiny He has prepared. We start to realize that the greatest blessing is not the end result, but the transformation that takes place within us as we journey through the waiting season with Him. This transformation in our hearts often brings a new clarity to our purpose. Delays give us time to reflect, to seek God's guidance, and to align our desires with His will. Sometimes in the waiting, God reveals that the very thing we were pursuing is not His best for us. He gently redirects our path, guiding us toward a purpose that is far greater and more fulfilling than we could have envisioned. In the quiet of waiting, we learn to tune out the noise of the world and listen for His voice, trusting that His plans are higher than ours. God's delays often protect us from paths that would have led to disappointment or harm, drawing us closer to the path He has prepared for us. The waiting season becomes a place of divine alignment, where our hearts are recalibrated to desire what He desires. We also gain a deeper appreciation for the gifts and blessings God bestows upon us when they do arrive. The waiting sharpens our gratitude, making us aware of every detail of His provision and grace. When we finally receive what we've been waiting for, we cherish it with a greater sense of wonder and thankfulness. Our delayed blessings become markers of God's faithfulness, reminders of His perfect timing and love. They carry a weight and significance that would not have been possible if we had received them prematurely. Through the delay, we learn that every blessing from God is worth the wait, that His gifts are not only timely but richly layered with His goodness and love. Even more profoundly, delays teach us that God Himself is our reward. The journey of waiting draws us into a deeper relationship with Him, revealing that He is the source of our joy, our peace, and our strength. We realize that even if the blessing never comes, we have already received the greatest gift, His presence. This revelation frees us from the bondage of impatience and unmet expectations, allowing us to rest in the knowledge that in Him we are complete. The delay becomes a doorway to intimacy with God, a sacred space where we come to know Him as our all-sufficient provider, comforter, and friend. As we continue to grow in faith through the waiting, we become more resilient in facing future delays. Each season of waiting builds our trust so that the next time we face an unexplainable delay, we can approach it with a peace that surpasses understanding. We know from experience that God is faithful, that His timing is perfect, and that He will bring about His purposes in His own way. This resilience is a gift that carries us through all of life's uncertainties, grounding us in the truth that God's love and sovereignty remain constant, regardless of our circumstances. Our faith becomes a testimony of His goodness, a light that shines brightly in a world often marked by impatience and doubt. And so as we embrace the waiting season, we begin to see it not as a detour, but as a destination in itself, a place of growth, transformation, and intimacy with God. We find that the waiting season is fertile ground where God's promises are nurtured, where our faith is strengthened, and where our relationship with Him deepens in ways we couldn't have imagined. We come to understand that every moment of waiting is infused with purpose, that God is at work even when we can't see it, and that His plans for us are good. Through each delay, He is inviting us to trust Him more, to rest in His love, and to walk in the assurance that His timing is always perfect. In these moments of waiting, we learn to rest in His promise, to hold fast to His word, and to remember that He is faithful to complete the work He has begun in us. The delay may not make sense to us, but we trust that it makes perfect sense to Him. As we place our hope in His timing, we find that He is shaping us into vessels of His love, carriers of His peace, and bearers of His truth. The waiting is not a waste, it's a refining process, a divine preparation for the destiny He has planned. Through the seasons of waiting, we learn that God's delays are never random, they are purposeful and intentional, designed to bring us closer to Him and to prepare us for His promises. We find comfort in knowing that He is with us in every moment, guiding us, teaching us, and loving us through the process. And so with every step, we draw nearer to the fulfillment of His plans, walking in faith, grounded in hope, and surrounded by His unending love. As we yield to His timing, our hearts are transformed, our vision is clarified, and our spirits are strengthened. The waiting season becomes a testament to His faithfulness, a reminder that God's ways are higher than ours and that His love for us is beyond measure. In the quiet of waiting, we find our true purpose, our deepest joy, and our eternal hope anchored in Him. Through every delay, God is writing a story of grace, a story that reveals His glory and His goodness, a story that reminds us that in Him we have everything we need. As we continue through the journey of waiting, it becomes clear that God's timing is uniquely designed to align with the unfolding of His divine purpose. This alignment is not arbitrary, it is an intentional orchestration that reveals His heart and character to us in ways we might never otherwise understand. With each passing day, we come to see that waiting on God is less about the time that passes and more about the transformation that takes place within us. In this transformative process, God is refining us, molding us into His likeness. This refinement often requires that we confront our fears, our insecurities, and the parts of ourselves that we might be reluctant to face. God's delays are like a mirror, reflecting back to us the areas where we need His touch the most. Whether it's our need for control, our impatience, or our doubts, God uses the waiting period to bring these issues to the surface so He can address them with His grace and wisdom. Through this refining, we begin to experience a shift in perspective. Instead of viewing the delay as a hindrance, we start to see it as a time of preparation. God is not only working on the circumstances surrounding us, but He is also working within us. He's preparing our hearts to receive the blessings He has in store, equipping us to handle them with maturity, gratitude, and humility. Without this preparation, we might find ourselves overwhelmed by the very blessings we've been asking for. This preparation is also about capacity building. God knows the weight of His blessings and understands that we need to be ready to carry them. In the waiting, He stretches our capacity for faith, patience, and love. He is fortifying our character so that when His promises are fulfilled, we can steward them well. Like a plant that needs time to root deeply in the soil before it bears fruit, we too need to be firmly rooted in God's truth and grace before we can fully embrace His promises. One of the most profound aspects of waiting on God is the deepening of our relationship with Him. In the silence of waiting, we are drawn into a closer communion with our Creator. It's in these quiet, still moments that we hear His voice most clearly, where His whispers of love and assurance reach the deepest parts of our souls. We come to understand that our relationship with God is not merely transactional, but deeply relational. He is not just a giver of blessings, He is a Father who desires a profound connection with us. Waiting becomes a time when we learn to enjoy His presence, to find our satisfaction and joy in Him alone, apart from any external blessings. As we spend time in His presence, we realize that God is not distant or detached from our waiting. He is intimately involved in every detail. The Bible reminds us that God is close to the brokenhearted and that He hears the cries of His people. In our moments of frustration and doubt, He is there, comforting us, encouraging us, and reminding us of His promises. We come to see that our waiting is not wasted time, it is sacred time. Each moment spent in His presence strengthens our faith, renews our hope, and deepens our love for Him. This sacred time in God's presence changes us in ways we might not immediately recognize. Over time, we find ourselves more attuned to His will, more aligned with His purposes. Our desires begin to shift, and we start to want what He wants for us. The things that once seemed so important fade in comparison to the joy of knowing and serving Him. Our prayers change too. Instead of asking for our plans to be fulfilled, we begin to pray, Lord, let Your will be done. This surrender is not a sign of defeat, it is a sign of trust. We are learning to let go of our limited understanding and to embrace God's infinite wisdom. Through this surrender, God teaches us the beauty of obedience. Often in the waiting, God calls us to take steps of faith, to trust Him even when the path ahead is unclear. Obedience becomes a way of expressing our love and trust in Him. A way of saying, Lord, I believe that Your ways are higher than mine. This obedience is not always easy. It requires that we let go of our need for control and trust that God knows what He's doing. But as we obey, we experience a sense of peace and joy that can only come from walking in alignment with His will. In this journey, we also come to understand the value of patience. Patience is often seen as passive, but in God's kingdom, patience is powerful. It is a demonstration of our faith and trust in God's timing. It is a willingness to wait for His best rather than settle for something that is simply good. Patience refines us, teaches us resilience, and prepares us to receive God's promises with gratitude and humility. It is through patience that we learn to appreciate the journey, to see the beauty in each moment, and to trust that God is working even when we can't see it. Our patience becomes a testimony to others, a light that shines in a world that is often hurried and restless. When people see us waiting with grace and trust, they are drawn to the peace that only God can provide. Our lives become a reflection of His faithfulness, a reminder that He is worth waiting for. Through our patience, we show others that God is not a God of shortcuts, He is a God of purpose. And His timing, though sometimes perplexing, is always perfect. As we wait, God also uses this time to build our resilience. Life is filled with challenges and setbacks, and God knows that we need to be prepared for these. Waiting teaches us to endure, to press on even when things don't go according to our plans. We learn to trust in God's strength rather than our own, to rely on His grace to carry us through. This resilience becomes a source of strength, enabling us to face life's trials with courage and hope. We are no longer easily shaken by delays or disappointments because we know that our hope is anchored in something far greater than our circumstances. In this season of resilience building, we also experience a profound sense of gratitude. Delays have a way of shifting our perspective, helping us to see the blessings we often take for granted. We begin to recognize God's provision in the small things, to appreciate the beauty of each day, and to give thanks for the journey. Our hearts become more attuned to His grace, and we learn to live with a spirit of gratitude that transcends our circumstances. This gratitude is a powerful force. It shifts our focus from what we lack to the abundance of God's love and provision in our lives. As we wait, we also gain a deeper understanding of God's promises. His word becomes our anchor, a source of hope and encouragement. We come to realize that God's promises are not just nice words, they are truths that sustain us through every season of life. The Bible is filled with stories of people who waited on God: Abraham, Joseph, Moses, David, all of whom experienced delays, but ultimately saw God's promises fulfilled in ways they could not have imagined. Their stories remind us that God is faithful, that His promises are true, and that He will fulfill them in His perfect timing. In these stories, we see a pattern of God's faithfulness, a reminder that He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Just as He was faithful to them, He will be faithful to us. This knowledge gives us a hope that is unshakable, a confidence that no delay can diminish. We hold on to His promises, not with a sense of desperation, but with a quiet assurance that He will do what He has said. Our faith becomes rooted in His character, in His goodness, and in His unwavering commitment to His children. As our faith deepens, we also experience a sense of joy that transcends our circumstances. This joy is not dependent on receiving what we want. It is a joy that comes from knowing that we are loved by a God who is for us, who is working all things together for our good. It is a joy that is anchored in the assurance that no matter what happens, God's plans for us are good. This joy becomes our strength, a source of light in the darkest moments, and a reminder that God's presence is with us through every delay. This joy also brings us into a place of peace. Peace that is not rooted in our circumstances, but in the presence of God. As we wait, we learn to rest in His promises, to trust that He is working even when we can't see it. This peace guards our hearts and minds, keeping us focused on Him rather than on the uncertainties around us. It is a peace that defies understanding, a peace that comes from knowing that we are held in the hands of a loving Father. Through every season of delay, God is writing a story of His faithfulness in our lives. Each waiting period becomes a chapter in this story, a testimony of His grace and goodness. When we look back, we see how each delay was a step in His plan, a part of His purpose for our lives. We begin to understand that His timing was not a hindrance, but a blessing, a way of drawing us closer to Him and preparing us for the blessings He had in store. This story of waiting is one we carry with us, a reminder of God's faithfulness and love. It becomes a part of our testimony, a way of sharing His goodness with others. We are able to tell others of the times we waited, of the times we doubted, and of the times we saw His promises fulfilled in ways we could never have imagined. Our story of waiting becomes a story of hope, a story that points others to the God who is worth waiting for. As we continue to journey through life, we will face new seasons of waiting, new moments of uncertainty. But with each delay, we are reminded of the lessons we have learned, of the faithfulness we have witnessed. We know that God is with us, that His timing is perfect, and that His promises are true. As we continue to journey with God through seasons of waiting, we begin to see that these delays serve as opportunities for God to reveal His heart to us in profound ways. Each period of waiting invites us to lean into His character more deeply and discover the layers of His love, mercy, and strength. When we stand in these moments of prolonged expectation, we realize that God's plans are designed with intentionality, not just for the final outcome, but for our growth, our understanding, and our trust. In our moments of waiting, God shapes our perspective not only on our circumstances, but also on who He is. He wants us to know Him, to trust Him beyond what we can see, feel, or understand. Waiting becomes a call to deepen our relationship with God, to trust that He is good even when life feels uncertain. It's a call to recognize that He knows the desires of our hearts more intimately than we do, and that He's working on something beyond our understanding, crafting a plan that far exceeds our imagination. There is a powerful shift that happens in the waiting. God allows us to reach a point where we have to let go of our limited plans and open ourselves to His higher ways. The delay becomes less about what we're waiting for and more about who we're becoming as we wait. Our reliance on Him grows as we realize that He is not a distant or indifferent creator. He is deeply invested in every detail of our lives. The wait teaches us to release control and surrender our agendas to Him, acknowledging that His ways are truly higher than ours. This surrender is an act of worship, a way of saying, Lord, I trust You more than I trust myself. In the silence of waiting, God often whispers the deepest truths into our hearts. He teaches us patience, not the patience that merely endures, but the patience that finds peace in the midst of uncertainty. This patience is a divine gift, one that transforms how we view the passage of time. We start to understand that God's timetable isn't rushed, that His pace is perfect, and that each moment has a purpose. Waiting is not wasted time in God's economy. It's a time of sacred growth and preparation. In this place of patience, we begin to recognize God's fingerprints on every part of our lives. He shows us that His plans are interconnected, that each delay is like a thread in a tapestry being woven with purpose. This perspective reshapes how we view the events in our lives. We see that the job we didn't get, the relationship that didn't work out, or the opportunity that passed us by were all part of God's greater plan. He is not denying us, He is directing us. He's guiding us to the place where His blessings align perfectly with our readiness to receive them. As we wait, God begins to speak to us about our identity. He reminds us that our worth is not defined by what we have or achieve, but by who we are in Him. The delay gives us the space to confront any insecurities or doubts about our value and to understand that we are loved, cherished, and chosen by Him. This revelation shifts our perspective on the things we're waiting for, helping us see that while blessings are good, our greatest treasure is our relationship with God. We realize that the wait is not just about receiving from Him, but about becoming more like Him. In our desire to move forward, God sometimes asks us to pause and reflect. This pause allows us to examine our motivations, to ask ourselves why we desire certain things, and to purify our intentions. It's a time when God lovingly redirects our focus from self-centered ambitions to a heart that seeks His glory above all else. The delay becomes a refining fire, burning away selfish motives and cultivating a spirit of humility and gratitude. We begin to desire His will more than our own and to seek His kingdom above personal gain. Through this refining process, God also draws our attention to our faith. He allows us to experience moments of uncertainty and unanswered questions to deepen our reliance on Him. Faith, as the Bible describes, is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. In waiting, we exercise this faith, trusting that even when we can't see the full picture, God is at work. This faith anchors us, allowing us to stand firm even when circumstances seem bleak. It's a faith that declares, Lord, I believe in Your promise, even if I can't see the path. In these moments, God often brings to mind the testimonies of those who have gone before us. The Bible is filled with stories of people who waited on God and saw His promises fulfilled. Abraham waited for a son, Joseph endured years of slavery and imprisonment, and David was anointed king long before he ascended the throne. These stories remind us that waiting is a part of God's process. It reassures us that God's promises, though sometimes delayed, are always fulfilled. Each of these individuals experienced a time of preparation, a period when God was aligning circumstances and preparing them for their calling. As we continue waiting, God also invites us to look around and see His goodness in the present. We often focus so intently on what's ahead that we overlook the blessings in front of us. God's delay gently redirects our attention to the beauty of the here and now, to the relationships, opportunities, and growth He has placed in our lives today. It teaches us gratitude, helping us to appreciate the journey as much as the destination. We learn to see each day as a gift, to thank God for His provision, and to cherish the moments He gives us. This gratitude fuels a joy that transcends circumstances. We discover that true joy is not found in achieving our desires, but in resting in God's love. His presence becomes our source of contentment. And we learn that even in waiting, there is a peace that surpasses understanding. This joy is a testament to God's faithfulness, a reminder that He is with us every step of the way. We are able to say, Lord, even if I wait, I will rejoice because I know You are good. In this journey, we also come to realize that waiting on God is an act of hope. Hope is not just a passive wish, it is an active expectation that God will do what He has promised. This hope sustains us, keeping us focused on His promises and reminding us that He is faithful. It is a hope rooted in His character, in the knowledge that He is both willing and able to fulfill His word. Our hope becomes a beacon, illuminating our path and guiding us through the uncertainties of life. In moments of doubt, this hope is our anchor, grounding us in God's love. It reminds us that His delays are not denials, that His plans are not thwarted by our impatience, and that He is fully in control. We learn to rest in His sovereignty, to trust that He is orchestrating every detail for our good and His glory. This hope empowers us to wait with expectation, knowing that God's timing is perfect and that His plans are far greater than we can imagine. Our waiting also becomes a testimony to others. In a world that often seeks instant gratification, our willingness to wait on God stands out. It speaks of a faith that is not swayed by circumstances, a hope that is unshakable, and a trust that is anchored in God's faithfulness. Our lives become a living testimony of God's grace, a reminder to others that He is worth the wait. We are able to encourage those around us to share the lessons we have learned and to point them to the One who is faithful. Through every delay, God is weaving a story of redemption, a story of grace, and a story of transformation. Each chapter of waiting adds depth and beauty to this story, revealing His love in new and unexpected ways. We come to see that the delays are not obstacles but stepping stones on the path to His promises. God is not only preparing the blessings for us, He is preparing us for the blessings. He is shaping us, refining us, and aligning our hearts with His purposes. As we journey through this season, we find ourselves drawing closer to God, experiencing His love and faithfulness in ways we never thought possible. Our relationship with Him deepens, our faith is strengthened, and our hearts are transformed. We learn to trust Him, to lean on Him, and to find our joy and satisfaction in Him alone. The wait becomes a time of profound intimacy, a time when we come to know God not just as a giver of blessings, but as our Father, our friend, and our sustainer. Waiting on God teaches us that His presence is our greatest reward. More than the blessings, more than the answers, we come to cherish the One who walks with us through every season. We learn to value His presence above all else, to seek His face rather than just His hand. This shift changes everything. We are no longer driven by what we can gain, but by a desire to know Him, to love Him, and to walk with Him. In this place of surrender, we experience a peace that surpasses understanding. We are no longer anxious or fearful, for we know that our lives are in His hands. We rest in the assurance that He is with us, guiding us, and leading us into His promises. This peace becomes our strength, enabling us to face each day with hope and joy. We are able to say, Lord, I trust You. I trust Your timing, Your plan, and Your love. Through every season of waiting, God is faithful. He is with us, working behind the scenes, aligning circumstances, and preparing us for His promises. His love is steadfast, His grace is sufficient, and His presence is our anchor. We come to see that the waiting was never about the destination, it was about the journey. It was about discovering who God is, who we are in Him, and how deeply He loves us. As we continue in this journey of understanding unexplainable delays, we recognize that they can often lead to the most profound revelations about God's character and His ways. Delays challenge us to look beyond our immediate circumstances and gain a broader perspective of His purpose in our lives. They invite us to dive deeper into Scripture, where we find stories of others who faced delays and emerged stronger and more aligned with God's will. Take, for instance, the story of Joseph, whose life was marked by betrayal, imprisonment, and years of waiting before his dreams were realized. When we look at his journey, we see that each setback was not a sign of God's abandonment, but a part of God's strategic plan. Joseph's delays prepared him to become a leader, giving him the wisdom and experience necessary to save many lives during the famine. His faithfulness during those years of waiting turned him into a man of great influence and authority. Joseph's story illustrates that God's delays are often protective. He is positioning us for greater purposes that we may not yet fully understand. Similarly, consider the account of the Israelites waiting for deliverance from Egypt. Their journey was fraught with obstacles, and there were times when God seemed silent. Yet, during those 400 years of slavery, God was cultivating a nation. He was teaching them reliance on Him, instilling in them a longing for freedom that would one day be fulfilled. God was shaping their identity as His chosen people, preparing them to enter the promised land. The waiting was not wasted. It was a process that allowed God to fulfill His covenant promises to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. When we face delays in our own lives, we must ask ourselves, what is God teaching me in this season? What character traits is He developing within me? Are there areas of my life that require refinement? The truth is, these moments of waiting often reveal our true character and expose areas in which we need to grow. God uses delays to teach us patience, resilience, and dependence on Him. Each lesson learned in the waiting room of life prepares us for the next chapter. We must also recognize that these delays can be a profound invitation to seek intimacy with God. In times of waiting, we are called to draw near to Him. Our prayers may shift from asking for immediate relief to seeking His presence and understanding His heart. This pursuit of intimacy is where we truly find peace. When we spend time in His Word, we discover His promises, His faithfulness, and His unchanging nature. These truths become our foundation as we navigate the uncertainty of delays. Moreover, as we navigate through these waiting periods, we often encounter others who are also in their own seasons of delay. Our experiences can provide encouragement and support to those around us. God does not allow us to walk through these challenges in isolation. He places people in our lives to share the burdens and celebrate the victories. This communal aspect of faith reinforces our understanding that we are part of something much larger than ourselves. We are part of the body of Christ, called to uplift one another in times of need. The journey of waiting also opens doors for us to serve others. As we experience God's faithfulness in our waiting, we can extend that same hope to others who may be struggling. Our stories become testimonies of His goodness, and our encouragement can provide the strength someone else needs to keep pressing forward. By sharing our own challenges and the lessons we've learned, we become vessels of hope, reminding others that God is still at work, even in the midst of uncertainty. In the book of Isaiah, we find the promise that those who wait upon the Lord will renew their strength. This waiting is not passive. It is an active engagement with God. It is a posture of expectation, knowing that He is moving even if we cannot see it yet. We are called to rise up in faith, to mount up with wings like eagles, to run and not be weary, and to walk and not faint. This promise reminds us that our waiting serves a purpose. It is during these times that we can be strengthened and renewed, preparing us for what lies ahead. We also learn that God's delays can sometimes be for our protection. There may be times when we desire something deeply, only to find that God is withholding it for reasons we cannot comprehend. In these instances, we can take comfort in knowing that God sees the bigger picture. He knows the potential pitfalls and dangers we may face, and His loving hand keeps us from harm. Our finite understanding cannot grasp the infinite wisdom of God, who sees all, knows all, and cares deeply for our well-being. In the New Testament, we see this principle beautifully illustrated in the story of Martha and Mary. When their brother Lazarus fell ill, they sent word to Jesus expecting him to come and heal him. However, Jesus delayed his visit, allowing Lazarus to die. The sisters were confused and devastated, questioning why Jesus, who loved them, would not come to help. Yet in this delay, Jesus revealed his glory in a way that transformed their understanding of who he was. He raised Lazarus from the dead, demonstrating that he had power over life and death. The delay served a purpose far beyond their immediate desire, showcasing God's glory and strengthening the faith of those who witnessed the miracle. We must understand that when God is silent, it does not mean he is absent. He is actively working, aligning circumstances and preparing hearts. The silence invites us to trust in his sovereignty, to rest in his promises, and to believe that he is intimately aware of our situation. We are encouraged to take our burdens to him, to lay our desires at his feet, and to wait expectantly for his answers. As we navigate our personal delays, it's essential to cultivate a heart of worship. Worship shifts our focus from our circumstances to the character of God. It reminds us of his faithfulness, his goodness, and his love. In moments of waiting, we can choose to worship him in spirit and truth, praising him for who he is, regardless of what we see happening around us. This act of worship is powerful. It transforms our perspective and brings peace to our hearts. We begin to see that God is not merely a means to an end, but he is the end itself. Our relationship with him becomes our greatest treasure, overshadowing our desires for what we are waiting for. As we continue to wait, let us not forget to encourage ourselves in the Lord. Like David, who strengthened himself in God during his most challenging moments, we too must remind ourselves of his faithfulness in the past. We can recall how he has brought us through previous trials, how he has answered prayers, and how he has provided in times of need. This practice of remembrance fuels our faith, allowing us to move forward with confidence, knowing that the same God who was with us then is with us now. In these extended moments of waiting, we may find ourselves drawn to the stories of those who have endured similar challenges and emerged victorious. These stories serve as reminders that we are not alone in our struggles. We can glean wisdom from their experiences, learning how they navigated their own seasons of delay and how they ultimately witnessed God's faithfulness. Their testimonies become beacons of hope, lighting the way for us as we continue on our own journeys. Furthermore, let us remember that God is not just interested in the end result, he is equally invested in our journey. He wants us to grow in character, faith, and love throughout the waiting process. Every delay becomes a classroom where we learn essential lessons about reliance, surrender, and the beauty of trusting his perfect timing. We discover that our relationship with him is not merely transactional but transformational. As we walk with him through our delays, we become more like Christ, reflecting his love and grace to a world that desperately needs it. Finally, as we continue to face unexplainable delays, let us hold on to the promise that God is always working for our good. Romans 8:28 reminds us that in all things God works for the good of those who love him. Our delays are not in vain. They are part of his master plan, intricately woven into the fabric of our lives. Each moment of waiting is an opportunity for God to demonstrate his faithfulness and reveal his love in ways we may not yet comprehend. So as we close this chapter on delays, let us carry the assurance that God is with us, guiding us, preparing us, and revealing his purpose in every situation. May we embrace the wait, knowing that in the stillness God is speaking. He is nurturing our hearts, strengthening our faith, and drawing us closer to him. Let us wait with hope, expectancy, and trust, for in his perfect timing, all things will come to pass according to his will. As we conclude this journey through unexplainable delays, let us embrace the blessings that come from waiting on the Lord. May you find strength in his promises and peace in his presence, knowing that every delay serves a divine purpose in your life. Trust that God is working behind the scenes, preparing you for the plans he has in store. As you navigate these seasons, may your faith deepen, your hope rise, and your heart remain anchored in his love. Thank you for joining me in this exploration of God's hidden messages. May you be richly blessed as you wait, and may His grace guide you through every moment of your journey. Amen.